Hello, welcome to the Mediocre Takes podcast, the podcast where we share our mediocre takes on the shows and movies we watch. I'm Marco, and I'm here with my co-host Mel. How are you doing, Mel?
I'm okay, I guess.
What do you mean by that?
Oh, it's nothing.
No, explain.
No, it's actually nothing. I just
Okay,
wanted attention for a little bit.
okay. I feel you. I get that. Today we're talking about Tales from Scorchwater Valley. It's also called Rhino and the Redbill, I think.
Okay, so this is a pilot by Alex Henderson. So, Niles, a blind rhino, and Red, his sightseeing bird friend who has an injured wing, take a shortcut to the Scorchwater Valley. They get caught by a hyena, Rollo, and his gang and attempt to escape. They successfully take out the gang and strengthen their friendship.
I really loved this pilot. I feel like the action was really amazing and the animation was beautiful. I felt weird about the relationship between Rhino and the Red Bull because I sensed a romantic connection between them, or maybe that's just me being weird.
It was all of us. We
Okay,
all sensed it.
okay. But the romance between between a rhino and a bird is kind of weird. Like when the bird said we'll make great parents, I felt uncomfortable. I'm okay with the romances, but I think it's the fact that they were both animals and such different animals that felt weird to me.
That's kind of racist, Marco. Like literally racist.
Literally stop. That's not true. Yeah, I'm okay with romance, but the fact that it's between a rhino and a bird is strange. Then I will admit that.
I really like interspecies co-parenting. I think it's really adorable.
Hmm.
And and also the trope where the like big strong guy has like a soft spot for like a kid or something. I find that really adorable. So, I didn't think it was weird, Marco.
Okay. And another thing I just thought of is what happened to the mother and like why is there a romance between I don't know, it just doesn't make sense in my head.
You can make it make sense, Marco. Maybe it was his sister's child and his sister was killed in an accident. And her dying wish was for her brother and her brother's boyfriend to take care of her child. We don't know, Marco. But you don't have to make it weird. You can make things up in your brain to make it make sense.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Anyways, let's move on from this because we're just never gonna be eye to eye. Okay, I really like the fact that the rhino is blind. It made me love this pilot so much more. I literally did not realize he was blind the whole time I was watching the pilot. So whenever he was just out of it, I assumed he was like dehydrated and experiencing like hallucinations. So I was genuinely confused for the whole time because I didn't realize he was blind or visually impaired until I looked in the description.
Did you think it was just like a Ratatouille situation?
Oh yeah, kinda. Yeah,
Yeah,
like I thought he was
that's
just out of it, and that's why the bird was like doing that.
Yeah, I thought that it was a great way to set up the dynamic between them to be like the rhino is blind and the bird is has an injured wing, so like need each other. Well, the rhino kind of didn't need him because he talked about having a cane before and also like knowing the area very well. So the rhino kind of didn't need the bird, but I think the rhino also like seemed like he really wanted to take care of that egg, so he was doing it for her. The egg is a girl named Sam.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
whatever.
no, that is actual fact. I'm actually not making that up in my
Wait,
brain.
really?
Yeah.
Where'd you learn this information?
In the beginning, Niles and Red were arguing, and Red was like, "Do it for her," or he was like, "Do it for Sam." And then later on, we find out that Sam is the egg.
I forgot about that. That makes so much sense now. So the character design for the lackeys were really cool, especially the masks. The way they were animated and how the way the mask would blink on and off during this one scene where it turned red. It was really cool. Like I really loved it.
Oh my gosh, those were so slay.
The fact that this only has a 100,000 views is criminal. This deserves way more attention. And one critique I have of this pilot is that the audio mixing, or whatever it's called, is really bad. I didn't mind the voice acting, but the Rhino's voice actor was too quiet and everything else was too loud, so I can barely hear him. So I had to put subtitles on to understand what he was saying.
Yeah, I think it was the worst in the beginning. I feel like it did get a little bit better near the end, but yeah, the audio was a bit tough on this one. To be honest, Red was such an annoying twink. The way he actively lied to Niles, and I know he was doing it for Sam, but I fucking hate liars. Also, when we did find out that Sam was an egg, that was such a precious moment. And another precious moment was when the big machine threw a demolition ball at them and Red tried to cover Niles as if a fucking bird was gonna protect him from that thing.
That was actually pretty cute. I will admit that.
Oh, also, there was a part where two hyenas were talking to each other, and one of them was like, "I just think that if I lost my arm, I should be the one who gets to eat it." And the other one was like, "This wouldn't have happened if we had a union." If there was one thing I will laugh at, it is a union joke.
Overall, this was an amazing pilot. I love the fact that he was blind. I really love the animation. I also didn't realize the bird was injured, so fun fact about that. I was really oblivious during this whole pilot. I gotta admit that. Like I mentioned before, I really like the designs of the masks. So yeah, this was just a really great time.
Yeah, this was a nice little short about two dads and their journey to a safe place for their child. The masks the hyenas had, as well as just the layer in general and the action scenes were so good. My last critique is that I'm kind of tired of hyenas being the bad guys. I think it's a little bit overplayed now.
Are we blaming this on the Lion King?
A little bit, yeah. I understand people wanting to use hyenas as the bad guys since they hear the hyenas in the way they like fucking laugh and shit, and they're like, "Oh, that's a henchman right there." But I don't know. I feel like hyenas are so much more interesting. Like the fact that they're a matriarch. Animators, do something with that. Well, now that that's all said and done, I think it is time for a little segment that I like to call the Mediocre Minute. This is a tiny little micro moment where me and Marco recommend books, comics, music, games, and more for all of you to check out when mommy and daddy are fighting. So I will be. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
what what do you mean by that?
I don't mean us. I'm just okay, Marco. Sometimes I try to like just randomly think of something at the end to like add a little flair to it. And that's the first thing I thought of.
Anyways,
Okay. My recommendation is going to be Batman The Adventure Continues. It's a comic. It's literally just a continuation of the Batman animated series. I liked all of the chapters except the Deathstroke ones because I absolutely hate him. I think my favorite one was the last one, which was a Christmas themed chapter. It had Harley and Ivy being girlfriends, and one of my favorite villains in the animated series, Arnold and Scarface. I think that him as a villain and like just like the whole dynamic between him and his puppets is just really interesting. And if you're a fan of the old animated series or a fan of low stakes Batman comics that aren't super serious and like super violent, then I recommend you check it out. Marco, tell the listeners, what is your recommendation?
my recommendation is a podcast called There's a Lot to Unpack Here. So, There's a Lot to Unpack Here is a podcast basically run by this therapist and her husband, I think. I think they're married. They are polyamorous and talk about that during the podcast sometimes. And one of their recent episodes, which I found really interesting, was about her getting a breast reduction and discussing why she was getting a breast reduction and how that doesn't change the fact that she's still a feminist and all that. It's just that her breasts are so big that it literally makes her back hurt and stuff. It's really interesting to learn about like how breasts basically affect her daily life and how it affects her health. I recommend that episode a lot. It was really interesting to listen to. So yeah, that's my recommendation. Anyways, you guys, that's our thoughts on Tales from the Scorchwater Valley. If you want to send us a voice message on Spotify for podcasters, there'll be a link in the description to do so. We also have an Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Threads, which are at MidTakesPod, and a YouTube channel at the Mediocre Takes Podcast. And that's everything. So, goodbye.